All right, thank you everyone for joining us with the Ratatouille, the TikTok musical panel and virtual theater. I would love to introduce all of our panelists today who I'm so excited to have on board with us. They are Emily Jacobson, RJ Christian, Alec Powell, Christopher Routh, Douglas Ramirez, Greg Nobile, and Carly Callahan. Can everyone just tell us a bit about themselves, starting with Emily?
Sure. Hi, I'm Emily Jacobson. I'm an elementary school teacher from New York.
RJ.
Hello, I am RJ Christian. I am a senior at NYU studying vocal performance and a composer and a huge nerd.
Alec?
Yeah, so my name is Alec Powell, and I am a teacher and composer based out of Utah.
Christopher.
I'm Christopher, or Chris. I'm a photographer from New Jersey, and I'm just a theater geek who loves to create art in a shoebox.
Douglas.
Hi, everybody. I'm Douglas Ramirez. I'm the Director of Special Events over at the Actors Fund.
Mr. Greg Noble.
Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm a co-founder and producer at Seaview Productions.
And last but not least, Carly Callahan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carly Callahan. I am Managing Director of Seaview.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. Before we start, I just wanted to norm and have everyone know that we're norming for this discussion today, which is that we assume a generosity of spirit for everyone on this panel, and we'll challenge each other or our ideas if needed with grace and love. And because we want to encourage a bold conversation, everyone should be able to think and speak as they like, and feel free to take anything back that you don't mean, i.e. what I don't mean that, what I mean to say is. And lastly, let's treat this like my big crazy family and probably your crazy families as well, where we all get to talk over each other to make this feel like a conversation as opposed to somebody like me who's pretending to be an expert and asking a question and getting an answer. I do have questions for all of us, but let's just try to have this flow and step on as many toes as we can. So excited to get going. In fact, as a way to jump into this panel, I wanted to share a poem that I recently read by Molly Broke, which is entitled How Not to Be a Perfectionist. People are vivid and small and don't live very long. People are vivid and small and don't live very long. I love this poem because I think what gets in the way of our exploration of the arts is always like the fear of the end result not being exceptional. And right, we've all heard that phrase, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And I'm not getting paid by Nike to say this, but just do it, right? And Emily, as a former educator myself, I love that you're an educator who happens to be the OG among this rat pack, someone who followed their creative impulse to create and share a simple yet beautiful musical ditty on TikTok. Your ode to Remy, a lot will say and should say, was the precursor for this beautiful storm. Your video encouraged other pans on TikTok to sizzle. A lot of puns will be coming, so just get used to it. We fast forwarded to an award-winning production company, Seaview, and some of the biggest names in the Broadway, TV, and music industries to create Ratatouille, the TikTok musical. And what I personally loved about most about it was that even though this show was led by some of these aforementioned or referenced titans of our industry, we still ended up getting a virtual show that honored, in my opinion, the very first source material that you created, Emily. So really kudos to Seaview and the Rat Pack fam for honoring what I call low pro, right? Like low production value or virtual minimalism, right? Like this wasn't trying to be anything more than running with a cool idea, having fun, raising money for a great organization, and illuminating the human spirit in a great time of need for all of us. right? And all we need truly are Titus or Andrew in front of a simple background or those like white kitchen cabinets to, I don't know about you, right? But like I felt that like those butterflies in my stomach. I felt, oh my gosh, the call to prayer is going on behind me, and I'm gonna ask my brother to make it stop. Talk about intersectionality, y'all. All we need are, as we have the adhan and Allahu Akbars going afloat everywhere, all we need are Titus or Andrew in front of these like simple white kitchen cabinets to make us feel that magic, that moment when, you know, Ode to Remy swells, right? You're like, oh my gosh, and hearing the Broadway Sinfonetta, all that was achieved. And Ego reminds us, a great cook can come from anywhere. So now I turn to you all, the creators of one of the biggest shows this year that honors the smallest of cultural icons, Remy, because we all want to know exactly how this became a reality, and more importantly, how the spirit of something like this show can guide us towards the future of Broadway. So my first question is to all of you. I want to ask this question on everyone's mind. How did this happen? What came first? Can you speak about your entry point into the process? Any of you here, right? I think they all want to know, how did this free range sausage get made?
I think we were. Oh, sorry.
No, go, Chris, please.
I think like it was just unexpected. Like no one knew like this was gonna happen at all. I know like it started from Emily's video into Daniel Merciless video, and all of a sudden like there was this wave on TikTok of theater kids starting to create like songs or designs for this so said musical, or like I think it started out as a joke, really. I mean, I think we all can say that it was pretty much like a joke. Like what I posted I thought was funny. I was just like, oh, this is gonna be like a silly joke. I'm just gonna post it and not think about it and like go on with my life. But then all of a sudden, like a million views later, I'm like, what's happening, you know? So I really think like no one was prepared to like see where it was gonna end like it did.
Right, and while the Azan is still playing, like when you made this like shoebox model, you weren't thinking like, oh, if I do this, somebody's gonna approach me and say, right? It's like, I'm just trying to have some.
Yeah. I mean, the models I make, I think like multiple like interviews I've said, it was just for myself. Like I love like creating like mini sets, and like during the pandemic, it was like, you know, I didn't have Broadway or like theater to go to, so I had my little set model to like create my own little world, my own little Broadway. And so, you know, I did like Wicked and like all these fun shows, and all of a sudden there was like this trend on TikTok, and I was like, you know, it'd be funny if I just stuck in like a little Remy into like my set designs, and then all of a sudden it just like blew up. So it was such a crazy experience, honestly.
I feel like we also have to acknowledge, like, you know, like I feel like we all have like our own sort of entry points, but the world was sort of, you know, with the pandemic, there was just a big vacuum of art and inspiration. I think to the point where, you know, me personally, I was willing to put hours of effort and you know, lyric after lyric into what I still felt was not that much more than a joke, you know. Like I felt, you know, I orchestrated these songs, and you know, I recorded these demos, and I got my roommate to do choreography with me in the kitchen, because I had not written a single good thing that year.
Well, I like that you're saying like a joke, and yet you borrowed like a harmony from like Stephen Sondheim and matching, what is it, Michael Giacchino's aesthetic from the original film score. It's like, no big deal, just having fun. So rigorous. It was,
well, would I tell you that every song I tried to write before that year, terrible. That the pandemic sucked all of my like inspiration and talent out of me. And so that was like the Ratatouille stuff. I thought like the first good thing I had written in 2020. And I feel like, you know, that's what we needed. You know, everyone needed something to latch onto and collaborate with and play with. Which is why we got like, you know, there's thousands of Ratatouille songs that, you know, that have been written and choreography and dramaturgy packets and costumes. Like it so many people put so many hours into this because we all just needed it.
Yeah. It felt like during this time of pause and stasis, just the very idea of having this incredibly short timeline in which to create something and knowing that something was going to be created and not really knowing how that ultimate expression would be. There was just this energy, an infusion of energy that I think we all had, and this adrenaline, knowing that we were kind of moving against this period of darkness and creating something that I think had so much light and beauty. So it was terrifying, but exhilarating at the same time.
Absolutely. To add on to what Carly said, it seems like everyone on TikTok was yes-anding each other's work. There was no, this isn't what this will look like. It was, this is great, now I'm gonna run with that. The overture, which admittedly I hastily threw together in about 45 minutes, I was from a video that RJ made that didn't make the cut. And looking back, speaking to being okay with just good enough, the first week I made it, I kept thinking I should make a different one. It's not my best work, but also it is work. And we've all been in this, again, period of stasis where art has been so hard to come by that feels valuable just because the world sucks right now. And so to have some small grasp of good has been beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think like going off what you were saying about like, wait, you said that your inspiration came from RJ, Alec?
Yep.
So like my inspiration came from like Daniel's like main song, but then like every other video or like set design that I would make it would be inspired by other people's work. So other people's songs, because I could not create without like everyone else. Like I could make a set based on like the Ratatouille movie, but there was no like musical like concept there. So like, for example, taking RJ's song and like making like the Gusteau's like restaurant and like having him like move and come in, like it was just so great to like hear other people's music and just build off of that. And then it just turned into what, all of TikTok saw.
But how,
it was amazing.
Yeah, and like Greg and Carly here, like as like the captains of the ship, like how did you get RJ to then get this, like get it to Alec to crit, like how did the chain of command, it sounds maddening. Like how did that work?
Carly, you want to go?
Well, I mean, we were, have to take a step back to when we were initially kind of in this process of discovery and fascination that, Emily's song had erupted into all of this creation around this concept. So we were just so taken with all of these creators and how everyone was building off of everyone else. And we started to track internally, who was making what, and became more and more and more obsessed with all of this making that was going on. So it wasn't really being a catalyst for any of that in the beginning. It was just kind of watching it and being mesmerized by it and feeling this sense of urgency that as producers in this moment, it was incumbent upon us to recognize the moment, amplify these voices in a way that hadn't been done before, and kind of give also a moment for the world to recognize the way we were recognizing, like, this is something really special and magical. So let's see how we can bring it into the forefront of the cultural conversation.
Love that.
Perfectly put.
And I think to add to that real quick, I mean, when we were thinking about it, we were further fueled by the Actors Fund and the work that they had done. And we had been looking for a way to support that. So it was kind of this incredible alignment of all of these creators, this huge, enormous need, and are endeavoring to try to make the most of that opportunity.
I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because, you know, Douglas, you are the director of special projects at the Actors Fund. I know you've done some incredible work there. I believe it was like over $18 million given out to entertainment workers everywhere. Maybe that number has even grown since my last research, and I'll give you the opportunity to talk about that. And I wanted to ask you, because like you are a producer at the Actors Fund, a global pandemic, and I can tell you as the leader of Broadway for All, another org, you are raising money for an organization in a global pandemic, which feels like the worst time, right, for us to raise money for a not-for-profit. And yet this event raised over $2 million for the Actors Fund, and you all were able to give out even more money to entertainment workers who are in need. What has this event taught you about fundraising and capital in times of peril?
Well, that's a great question. And I can tell you, first, the number. Let me tell you so I am the director of special events over at the Actors Fund. And I can tell you to date, since March 18th of 2020, we have distributed over $20 million to almost 16,000 people. And I can tell you, we've also assisted over 40,000 people through our programs, which is a 71% increase from 2019. So clearly the need has been there. It continues to be there. But yes, since the pandemic hit, I had to learn to pivot pretty quick, I have to say, and embrace and love the virtual world. So there have been a multitude of projects that have been done for the Actors Fund. I have to give credit where credit is due. The very first one out of the gate was Seth Rudetsky and James Wesley with Stars in the House. They started the week after that Broadway shut down, and they still are going every single day of the week raising money. It's incredible the work that they're doing. And then the next big one that happened for us was the Rosie O'Donnell launch of the Rosie O'Donnell show with Eric Bergen producing that show as well. So we were thrown into the deep end of the pool is the best way to put it. And luckily, because I had had several months of this happening, when Greg and Carly contacted us at the Actors Fund and said, we're doing this and it's happening really fast, I was like, let's go. I'm not even going to, let's just go. I was excited to have the opportunity to do this, and we all jumped on board and we really got it done. But ultimately, I think similar to what is really what we're celebrating about this musical and the fact that it came from TikTok is that it's about community. This community at TikTok really, I mean, came together, and I was watching this unfold myself. I have to admit it. I'm addicted to TikTok. I should probably like start a self-help group or something for this thing, because I'm up until all hours watching this thing. But I love it, and I saw it unfolding. So as soon as Greg and Carly called, I had to explain to everybody at the Actors Fund, this is what it is. This is what's happening on TikTok. It's blowing up. We got to get on this, and we did. But the outpouring of support and love from the community itself to help the community has been tremendous, because quite honestly, if you think about it, anytime you think about a hurricane, wildfires, famine, wherever it might be somewhere else, the entertainment community steps forward very quickly to lend their name, their celebrity, and to assist. This is the first time we really had to reflect and turn to ourselves to help ourselves. And they have been doing it nonstop to this day. The way I put it, and so many people have heard me say this, but I wake up every day and I'm drinking from a fire hydrant, not even a fire hose, a fire hydrant, because everything is coming at me at once. But I, much like you guys did when you first started this project, I start every day with yes, and. Thank you for bringing this project to me. Yes, and what can we do to amplify it? And that's exactly what we did here. And putting this together in 4 weeks, let's not forget that. That's the big number that I don't think anyone here has mentioned just yet. It was 4 weeks from start to finish. So applause to everybody involved in this project.
Yeah, and you talk about community, which I want to now ask another question. But before I do that, in 4 weeks' time, this means that like a lot of the creators on this panel right now were shooting out ideas and some getting shot down, just to like give some nuggets to some of the Ratatouille fans out there. Are there any babies that you had to kill or do a Sophie's choice with that you might want to share? I mean, like, Chris, do you have like this like set piece that you're like, they never used this image and they should have, or maybe like the next version of it? Or RJ or Alec are on music, Emily as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, 4 weeks was like such a short amount of time to like put a whole show together. And it was just even crazy that like, you know, we even got the recognition off of TikTok. But again, it came from like the community and the support and like all the love and like people seeing that this could be something. So thank you, Seaview, for like recognizing that. But yeah, it took like I was contacting David Bengali. Him and I, you know, he did all the visual set stuff for the actual show. It was hard to get an actual like shoebox set to like a virtual space. Like we were like playing around like, how are we gonna do this, you know? So we played around with me taking pictures, like really high quality pictures of my set. Like he wanted the background with the Paris skyline, like a little bit of the floor. Like he was very particular on like what he wanted. So I would like take pictures and like give him a whole bunch of stuff. And like at the same time, I was like so busy with like, you know, I was getting like more work coming in for myself, like as a photographer, and I was really busy. So it was hard to like coordinate, like, you know, putting this together in 4 weeks, like while doing like my main job and like trying to figure out how we can like merge, you know, reality into this virtual world. And I think we did a pretty good job, like trying to like take some inspiration from the sets and like, you know, the checkered background or like a curtain or the skyline too that he recreated. So, and then of course in the very beginning, you know, with the countdown, it had my little this.
There we go.
I brought it to
Go.
BroadwayCon because I was like, everyone needs to see it. This is the mobile version of my shoebox musical. It's actually this size. It's actually in a box like this, but this is the actual like set piece that they used. It was a picture, and I was talking to Lucy Moss, and she was like, "Oh, we're running like out of time, and like it's hard to get like what you want like into the production, and it's not going to fit into like with the orchestrations that we already had." And I was like kind of bummed out about it. I was like, "Oh, they're not going to use any of my stuff." Like I was a little bummed out. And then, you know, last minute, Lucy was like, "Nope, we're going to do this. We're going to put the one thing that you requested in." So I was really happy with that. But again, it's hard to move from like this to a virtual space. So, but yeah, here it is.
Emily, RJ, or Alec, CV already said no retaliation. Like if you have like a little ditty, you're like, "Oh, that didn't get in." Like, you know, just you know, one more.
I'll go. The last 10 measures of the overture. Never ever did they make it to anywhere, not my TikTok, not anywhere. They're written. 60 seconds is not enough time. And by the time I was brought onto the project, the incredible Macy Schmidt was already orchestrating stuff. So it was like, bye, but they're there somewhere.
Could you give us like 20 seconds of them right now for its like world premiere?
Ooh, there's no piano, so it'll have to live on in my heart and my mind and your soul.
Ooh, okay.
You should post it on TikTok.
Last 20 seconds.
You know, I'd be watching it. I watch everything, so.
Well, you know what? We can share it later. And with that, I actually want to ask, you know, I want to use this moment to allow a lot of our viewers to think about like them creating as a result of this inspired event. And the question on a lot of people's minds as they start to create their own idea of virtual theater is, we all know traditional theater is meant to be experienced live with an audience, to really share, you know, Douglas, you're talking about community, right? And like how there's this ritual of gathering among people and knowing there's someone next to you sniffling, or like we weirdly miss people's shoulders touching us, right? When we were inconvenienced by it and saying, why am I paying $160 for this? And so my question to you is, now that everything is streaming, how important and impactful is it for you to have a show shared with the world for a set time period, causing all the viewers, right, to watch and experience this digital or virtual show together, as opposed to like leaving it open-ended like one of the streaming giants, right? So it's, although I do believe, right, we had 72 hours to see Ratatouille, like it felt, and even that opening, right? Like, I mean, people were there, and I mean, everyone was trying to log on at the same time. It was a big moment. How do you think that feels comparatively with like with just releasing it and saying, watch it whenever you want?
I think it recreates the cathartic feeling of being in a theater. I know, you know, we're all so removed, but we all logged on our computers and just sat and waited. And I think knowing that you know, millions are in anticipation of this event, it was unbelievable. And I'm sure we all were just as excited.
Yeah, I really felt that excitement, like when the lights go down in the theater, when like I clicked play and it wasn't going and I had to keep refreshing. I'm like, all right, it's coming soon. No, Mom, don't log out. It's gonna work. It was just kind of, you know, that excitement I really was missing out on over the past few months.
I think there's also like, it was kind of sad to me that like as soon as the pandemic hit and people tried to do theater over Zoom, we all so desperately wanted to cling to form. Like so many boring pieces of Zoom theater, and they're all done the same way. It's like, we've been on Zoom for like a month. How are we already all doing the exact same thing? And I think it was so exciting because like it was theater trying to be theater again. And that was really exciting because like it's not just, you know, a bunch of people like sitting in boxes, you know, and you're like, you know, chill. Like it was an event, you know, people got on their couches and their families together. They had snacks, and it had pomp and circumstance, and
yes,
I think that's what we miss, the theatricality of theater.
I agree. I feel like so much of virtual theater is like in that one episode of How I Met Your Mother, where it's like we all get dragged into our friends' like black box show that's like experimental, and like we all have to like sit through that, you know. And it's like, and that's what a lot of it felt like. And so this really was a breath of fresh air, because you're like, oh, this hasn't been done this way before, and it's making me think of X. And also like, I feel like we've heard that Ratatouille doesn't intend to go to Broadway in the future, but like, you know, for people that are doing virtual productions of what could be on Broadway or et cetera, like, does it have to be live captured the same way? Can't we do it in a very different medium and still learn something about it before we take it into another medium? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think one thing that's been so exciting about watching what turned out to be a wholly new original musical take shape online was, you know, we effectively had a digital workshop of a show that wasn't intending to go further. The event was always meant to be terminal, but you know, I think so much of the process was a normal developmental process of putting collaborators together for the first time, trying things out. You know, we only got one whack at it in only a couple weeks, so we'll call it a lab. But it's interesting to think about both sort of how we talk about how social media helps us democratize access to creators. You know, we talk so much about in the theater business democratizing access to see shows, which is super important. You know, but I think something that's really important is talking about how we make sure that the the access to the pipeline of creators, many of whom are on this call today, who Seaview may have not have run into in our normal course of business, are now collaborators in the Seaview family. And the fact that we were able to all sort of come together and workshop something digitally, I mean, there's two sort of big takeaways that we got from this process that we could have never expected, were huge fundamental learning shifts for us as a producing organization.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think about the, like the re-entry back in, right? As we say, like, we want to build this, this new idea of what theater could be. I mean, I think it's safe to say, I was going to ask this as a question, but like, I don't want to ask a leading one, which is like, I was going to ask, how will Ratatouille and other pieces of digital theater be thought of? Like, will they be a relic from an extraordinary moment? And it's like, well, that's clearly decided. It won't be a relic. I think it's going to just be added on, right? Like, yes, and to go back to you, Douglas, right? Is it a harbinger of what is to come? How does this inform how we think about the possibilities of theater and how we make it? I mean, I think a lot of theater companies are, back to your point, Greg, about the democratization of access for theater. Like, will there be a virtual season accompanied by a live season? Or can you watch what's happening live? You know, like, how does the commerce behind that work? Or what do you all think about where we're headed and what people can start thinking about, especially those who don't feel like they are stakeholders now, but who would love to be one day?
I hope
just want to jump in real quick on that one, because I can tell you at the Actors Fund, one of the things that we have really just decided on, and it's a done deal, is the virtual world is never going to go away. This type of fundraising for us specifically, of having these amazing events happen, really widen our reach to our donor base. We brought in a lot of new people who may have never heard of who we are. And because of that, we know that this will be a constant no matter what. Even when we do start going back to the theater and having that shared experience, this shows you that you can also have a shared experience virtually as well. Again, like we were saying, you know, it did create a community. We were fortunate because it was already a built-in community, because it was TikTok. And it kind of had its own fire. I know, Carly, I think you and I have said this before, it was lightning in a bottle. It really was a moment in time that you are never going to recapture again in the same capacity, but it was captured. It can continue to encourage people to create this kind of content and to help find new talent. I mean, the people on this call right now, like Greg said, may have never crossed paths with any of us, nor would they have necessarily crossed paths with each other. You have to remember, well, not remember, what you guys don't realize is a lot of these content creators and the performers did not even meet or talk to one another. They worked in their own sections of what they were working on. It wasn't until it was great at the end of it all. The Actors Fund hosted a Zoom cast party. And it was so much fun to watch everybody come together and get to meet and talk live, you know, for the first time. Now, just behind the scenes, so you guys know, so the audience kind of gets a little behind the scenes story here, is we were supposed to be on that call for an hour to just a quick little cast party. Yay, we did it, $2 million. Congratulations, thank you. It was about 3.5 hours. And I was like, I'm going to bed. You guys can stay on. You know, but we had people from Australia and all over the United States. I mean, people called in. Lucy called in from London. It was an incredible opportunity. Again, it created a family. It created this sense of community, and it created this sense of warmth and love and compassion and encouragement. And that's what I really love about what this project was, is we all lifted one another up, and we all encourage each other to continue to do what we're doing. And even during that little cast party, they were already starting to talk about what's next. What are we going to create? What are we going to do? And then, you know, Chris is like, maybe I'll create this set. And, you know, we had the graphic artist saying, oh, look, here's like 3 different designs I'm going to do right now. Remember that, RJ? You were on that call. It was crazy.
Amazing.
It was crazy. So it's just a really wonderful opportunity. But I do think that the virtual world is going to be here. It's a new way for people to look at how can we create this content. And it's an exciting, a little bit of a Wild West, but it's an exciting opportunity for all of us to be involved with.
And Emily, I feel like Douglas always says things that like get us into this like cool new idea as well. Like Emily, thinking about like who can do this now, or like being inspired. I mean, Miss Jacobsen, Miss Jacobson's like ditty on TikTok, like what was that impact on your students? What was I imagine there was like an uproar of like beautiful noise that happened after this. Like, what was that like? And what do you think it teaches any student across America or the globe about like their potential?
Well, it was funny because at first when I downloaded TikTok and was putting out videos, I changed my name. I tried to be very private, just family and friends. I wasn't looking to start any worldwide musical. And, I was missing musicals. I was walking around my house making up songs about the garbage can or walking into the kitchen. So when I made up this little song about Remy the rat, I, sent it as a voice memo to my brother, and he's like, no, just stop. So then I went one step further and made it totally absurd. But I had absolutely no idea what was coming and no idea what kind of community I would find in this TikTok world. So then, months and months after the start, now, I'm kind of sharing with my students like, oh, I have some special news. And they're just blown away. They're like, Miss Jacobsen, me and my mom looked you up on Google and we found this, and this. So then it's like, all right, well, let me play you a little bit of it. And then I have to tell the principal, just so you know, this is happening. It's completely appropriate. But the kids really, they get a kick out of it. They're, I think, really surprised that, this is my teacher. This is like, they don't see their teacher as a human being. They, see their teacher as somebody that lives at the school, sleeps at the school, and is just there for them each day. So it's been fun to they're coming in and like singing songs to me and telling me these things that they want to do. I'm like, yeah, do it. Yeah, shit, tell everybody just keep going if you're excited about it. So I really do hope it teaches people that just, if you're excited about something, let your creativity flow and go with it. Even on TikTok, people that didn't necessarily play an instrument or have a role in the musical theater world, they were like, well, I can't do anything else, so I'll just be an usher, or I'll just be walking around cleaning up the stage. They just, want to be a part of something, and anyone can kind of fall into anything.
Yeah. And what Emily so beautifully articulates is I think that there was a major paradigm shift of audiences thinking of themselves not as consumers necessarily, but also as collaborators. And it's so exciting to imagine what that paradigm shift will yield in the months and the years to come, when audiences feel empowered to imagine what they might create and how they might create. So I feel like we kind of planted seeds that we may not see what they develop into for some time, but I'm pretty confident that we planted seeds that are there and are going to be quite abundant in their growth.
Carly and everyone else, what do you all feel like then, like these seeds, like, Emily's seed of this TikTok video then created this, right? So it's like, what do you think these seeds have the potential to do for the next 5 or 10 years? Like, for any of you on this call, especially the creators, what pieces of democratization are most fundamental to the evolution of the art form? Like, what do you think that is, and how do we encourage those pieces to flourish? Like, how do we try to top like the Ratatouille of this zeitgeist in 5 years, in 10 years? Like, what does that look like, you think?
I think an important part of this moment is the sort of breakdown of celebrity. And I think, celebrities in theater exist sort of on a different place than like film. But there is still this place of celebrity. But once you take away like, I guess like the paycheck element of it, it's like, this kid who's never done anything on Broadway, grew up in Boone, North Carolina, is now like working on something with, like Titus Burgess and Andre DeShields. I think it's this moment that sort of proves that like this can work, and people that don't have Tonys can have talent. And that idea, I think, is going to change the way we think about collaboration, and hopefully open up the door to, giving those kids a chance. What if this the kid who's never written anything, like DMs JRB and is like, hey, I got this funky little tune, you want to work on it with me? Like that's, what if that's in our future? What if the road to Broadway is a little shorter now? And what if the lines between the audience and the stage and the producers, what if that's all getting blurred and shortened and easier? I think that's what excites me, is that really making theater accessible for everyone to not only consume but also create.
It definitely feels like, at least with this whole Ratatouille journey, that people cared about the process just as much as the final product. I think so often, that family from Ohio flies to New York. I assume that everyone on the creative end and the production end is only caring about the final product. But I think we saw that all of these audience members wanted to see the journey from the bones to where it ended up. And I think to conversations I've had with people asking about my process, well, it's this small little cog in a wheel, but after about the 30th person asking the question, you have to wonder how many other of those, monoliths in theater are we missing out, the behind the scenes that just truly make it feel like a family. And I think that's the thing that's the seed we're missing right now, is the family aspect of this mega corporation that is theater.
I just want to throw in, like, I wonder what it's going to be like to, merge the digital world with like real live theater, like on a Broadway stage. Like, how can the two like be married together? Like, could, if Hairspray goes on Broadway again in a revival, like, are they gonna just film it virtually, or will there be a separate virtual performance of it as well? Like, I don't know, like, how the two are gonna marry now, because Ratatouille came out of a pandemic where we didn't have a live stage to go to, so we had to create one of our own. But now Broadway's going to open up again, so what does that mean for how we are going to move forward, but merging the two together?
Yeah, I mean, I really hope it doesn't become, like I always say, if I see a play and you can hold a camera in front of it and it reads easily, you're not trying hard enough, to make theater. Like, then like leave it to film. But it's like, how then do we like keep soliciting the best ideas to find that sweet spot, that in between, where like virtual starts to become an aesthetic that we crave, that theater is not doing and film's not doing. Before we go, I wanted to ask all of you, in the spirit of you people who were so brave enough and creative enough to share your content out there, and creating shoebox musicals, right? In the spirit of anyone can create or anyone can cook, what new creative project have you picked up during quarantine besides making a killer banana bread?
Is this towards me? I'm sorry.
Like, or what project is next that you can legally talk about, that you're working on? Might it be informal? Let our fans get some extra gold here.
Well, I definitely, like, after the pandemic, like, work has picked up a lot now. During the pandemic, I had nothing else to do but like create mini sets. So that kind of like saved me. And I was talking to Carly earlier. I'm like, like Ratatouille really came out of nowhere and like kind of saved a lot of people to bring something like happiness and joy in a dark place. But next is, I'm just sticking to TikTok. Like, what people want to see, like I'm asking them if they want to see other shows. I'm currently going live like every Monday and Friday on TikTok. I have like a mini show that I put on live. It's actually like Phantasmic from Disneyland, from the park. And I recreated it into this mini 15-minute show that's live for my viewers to watch. And that's really where I am really now with, you know, this big thing, which I carry around all the time. So that's where I'm at.
Sweet. Emily, RJ, Alec, any fun things that you're cooking up?
The big thing I'm doing right now is I'm trying to collaborate with as many people as possible. And you know, I'm making it happen to post every day. But right now, the big thing I'm working on is I'm trying to do like a musical series revolving around Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I've reached out. I've made some really cool friends on TikTok, and a lot of them said I'd be so like excited to sing this music. And so that's hopefully going to be rolling out as the show comes out. And I'm really excited about the music for this because it's so different, and it's very Marvel and patriotic, and gosh, when you see the people that I have who said yes, I will sing your songs, it blows my mind. So I'm really excited about that.
I'm doing more of the same. Like everyone else, real life has picked back up, so I've picked up some composition jobs. So that's been really refreshing for my palette. But quarantine hobby, weaving, super cool. And then just working on collaborations on some musicals that I've been working on.
Greg and Carly, who like are crazy to have said, let's do this. It all could have like the lid could have like blown up and who knows where it would have gone. Anything you all can tell us about anything you're cooking up?
I think we feel very lucky that Ratatouille came together so nicely, and a lot of things went right by so many people saying yes and jumping on board and making it all happen that we don't want to test our luck too much. So we're gracefully exiting the virtual theater business, and we're very busy getting ready for Broadway to come back in the fall. And we have a bunch of projects, and we're so excited to be thinking about producing in real space again, and cheering on so many of our friends who are continuing to make amazing stuff in the digital space.
Aho to that.
So you're saying I shouldn't cold email you with my full draft of Cars the musical? Dang.
You'll do that.
You know what? I bet there are a bunch of producers who wish they could have done Ratatouille who are like, yo, we'll talk to you. So, you know, the world's your oyster. All of you know, there's enough for everybody everywhere. I want to thank all of you so much for your kindness, to Seaview, Carly, and Greg for your bold leadership and your generosity. Emily, your sheer creativity, your ability to say yes to your own impulse and to do something because you just felt like doing it. Thank you for everyone you've inspired, to Chris, to Alec, to RJ, to sharing your souls with us, to Douglas, the important work you do to allow everybody in our industry to keep on going on. Really, thank you and the Actors Fund so much. That's the end of our panel, folks. Thank you so much for joining us, and let's keep the conversation going.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, everyone.